Everyone asks if the Illuminati still exist. That's the wrong question. The real question is what replaced them. 18th century Bavaria wasn't just quiet villages and church bells. It was a pressure cooker. Old power structures, church, monarchy, rigid institutions, were colliding head-on with a new way of thinking. Enlightenment ideas were spreading fast. Reason over dogma, education over obedience, the individual over the institution. And in that tension, something unusual took shape. Secret societies. Not because people wanted mystery for its own sake, but because open dissent was dangerous. Knowledge itself was a threat. At the center of this moment stood Adam Weishaupt, a professor of canon law at the University of Ingolstadt. He wasn't a cartoon villain or a cloaked mastermind. He was a product of his time. Raised under strict Jesuit influence, surrounded by institutional power that demanded obedience rather than thought, Weishaupt grew increasingly disillusioned. He saw corruption in the church. He saw stagnation in the state. And he saw Freemasonry, popular among intellectuals, as hollow, more social club than engine of change. So in 1776, he did something radical. He founded the Bavarian Illuminati. Now here's the thing. The Illuminati, at least in its original form, wasn't about world domination. It was about ideas. Dangerous ideas, at least to those in power. Weishaupt envisioned a society built on reason, merit, and self-improvement, where advancement came from knowledge, not birthright, and where individuals were encouraged to question everything, including the system itself. In Bavaria at the time, that was explosive. Education was tightly controlled. Universities weren't places of free inquiry, they were factories for loyal servants of church and state. Science, philosophy, even daily life were filtered through doctrine, and anyone who stepped too far outside those boundaries risked punishment. So secrecy wasn't a luxury, it was survival. The Illuminati operated quietly, recruiting deliberately. Lawyers, doctors, professors, influential thinkers, even nobles. Not because they were powerful, but because they understood power and its abuses. Members moved through structured degrees, not to mystify them, but to test understanding and loyalty. Knowledge was revealed gradually. Questioning was encouraged. Blind obedience was not, at least in theory. And that's what made the Illuminati different. They weren't obsessed with ritual for ritual's sake. Symbols mattered, yes, light and darkness, the owl of wisdom, coded language, but these weren't decorations. They were tools. Ways to communicate ideas safely. Ways to build identity and shared purpose in a world hostile to dissent. But ideas don't stay contained. By the 1780s, rumors began to spread. Authorities grew nervous. Revolutionary energy was already bubbling in Europe, especially in France. And the last thing Bavarian leaders wanted was an organized network questioning the foundations of power. So the hammer came down. In 1784, under pressure from the church, Elector Karl Theodor banned all secret societies. The Illuminati were outlawed, homes were searched, letters seized, members arrested. Weishaupt fled Bavaria into exile. On paper, the Illuminati were finished, but here's the paradox. Suppression didn't erase the ideas, it amplified them. Once exposed, the Illuminati became something larger than the organization itself. A symbol, a warning, and later, a canvas onto which people projected fears, myths, and conspiracies far removed from historical reality. Because history is messy. Some later writers painted the Illuminati as champions of freedom. Others portrayed them as architects of tyranny. And over time, the name Illuminati became shorthand for hidden power, whether real, exaggerated, or imagined. So let's zoom out. Adam Weishaupt himself wasn't anti-spiritual. He opposed clerical control, not personal belief. His philosophy leaned toward deism, the idea that order and reason exist in nature, not just in decrees from above. He believed education could improve human behavior, that people weren't broken by nature, but shaped by environment, and that belief shaped the Illuminati's structure. Members advanced through learning. Ethics, science, philosophy. Not indoctrination, at least not overtly, but cultivation of critical thought. In an age where institutions demanded obedience, that alone was revolutionary. But secrecy cuts both ways. The same methods that protected ideas also created hierarchies, inner circles, compartmentalization, partial truths, and that's where things became complicated. Influenced by Jesuit organizational tactics, Weishaupt adopted layered control, where those at the top knew far more than those below. The rhetoric was liberation. The mechanics, however, still relied on loyalty, silence, and psychological leverage. That tension never went away. The Illuminati infiltrated Freemasonry not as partners, but as opportunists. Masonic lodges offered ready-made networks, trust, and social reach. Illuminati members joined lodges to recruit from within, using familiar symbols as cover for a more radical agenda. To some, this was strategic brilliance. To others, ethical betrayal, and the backlash was fierce. When authorities exposed these connections, they didn't just crack down on the Illuminati. Freemasonry itself was tainted. Raids followed. Arrests followed. Anti-Masonic sentiment spread across Europe. Ironically, the institution the Illuminati used as cover suffered lasting damage. As for political upheavals like the French Revolution, claims of direct Illuminati orchestration remain deeply contested. What's clear is this: revolutionary ideas don't require secret puppet masters to spread. Economic inequality, rigid hierarchies, censorship, those pressures alone can ignite upheaval. Secret societies may amplify currents, but they don't create them out of nothing. And that brings us to the myths. The idea that the Illuminati survived intact, pulling the strings of history into the modern era, doesn't hold up under serious scrutiny. The Bavarian Illuminati were dismantled. Their network collapsed. What survived were fragments, ideas, fears, symbols, repurposed by later movements, authors, and conspiracy narratives. Sometimes those narratives distract from something more important. Real power today doesn't need secret handshakes. It operates through visible systems: finance, technology, media, education. Centralization, surveillance, algorithmic influence. The danger isn't a hidden cabal in robes. It's unaccountable systems that shape behavior while claiming neutrality. And that's where the Illuminati story still matters. Not as proof of a shadow government, but as a case study in how power works. How ideals can be noble, methods questionable, and outcomes unpredictable. How secrecy can protect truth and corrupt it. How centralized control, even when wrapped in the language of progress, tends to drift toward coercion. The Illuminati ultimately collapsed under the same forces they tried to manage: exposure, internal tension, and resistance from entrenched power. Their downfall reminds us that ideas can't be fully controlled, and that attempts to engineer society from above almost always fail. So what do we take from this? First, skepticism cuts both ways. Question authority, but also question narratives that simplify complex history into heroes and villains. Second, true enlightenment isn't secrecy or control. It's transparency, ethics, and individual responsibility. And finally, freedom isn't handed down by institutions, secret or otherwise. It's built through education, community, and the courage to think independently. The story of the Illuminati isn't a warning about hidden masters. It's a reminder that power, once centralized, always tempts those who believe they know better than everyone else. The question isn't whether secret societies exist. The real question is whether we've learned to recognize control, even when it doesn't hide in the shadows. But don't take this as absolute truth. Check it yourself. Question it. Think. If this kind of thinking resonates with you, subscribe and drop a like. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Any topics you'd like me to cover next? These videos are made for you, after all. See you soon!